we are live while we set up. Because if not, we lose. Hey Siri, turn on my do not disturb.
Okay, I turn do not disturb.
I think we should share, invite David Moliterno. Here, I'm going to do this. Inviting you to the stream. Wow, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
People are like, I wonder if they know they're live. It's beautiful out.
Last 2 days, yeah.
Let me do microphone check. Audio check. No, we need the official. Check, check, check. There we go. We have sound. We're setting up. We got my man David Moliterno from Moliterno Insurance in the house. What else is going on here? Got to get that going. Happy Friday, everybody. The day after the aftermath. David, did you celebrate St. Patrick's Day in an appropriate manner?
Not yesterday, no.
No.
We had our Rotary meeting at Magic Tree on Wednesday, so anybody who wanted got a round of beers.
Yeah.
So
that happened.
That was the extent of
your celebrating.
Yeah. Nothing too exciting.
I have a normal. I think you should open up your laptop. I can do that. And accept this invite. We'll see if this works as well.
Invite on what?
We're live from our
email, Facebook
studios at Stone Fruit Coffee. Yeah. You're gonna be like the eagle. You ever see the eagle on the internet?
Eagle?
Yeah. Go to YouTube and look up the live video of the eagle. There's like always 10,000 people or more watching.
Oh, the Eagle's Nest?
Yeah, the Eagle's Nest in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh no. Did you get in?
It's loading.
Hey everybody, what's up? We are getting ready to get things rolling here. You're actually a part of the setup process. Gosh, where am I? The DOYO Live Marketing Show, right? As we build steam with the audience here, we've got our good friend David Moliterno stopping on by with Moliterno Insurance. We're going to talk about your premiums. Thank
Whatever
you
want to talk
very
about.
much. Live from Stone Fruit Coffee in Poland, Ohio. The aftermath, the day after St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully you're having a wonderful week. I've got senioritis, meaning that I have yesterday 70 degrees. I wanted to play whatchamacallit, skip out on Come on, amateur.
I'm working. I thought I muted myself. I muted myself. I didn't mute the audio though.
We'll give people a couple different camera angles. There we go.
Now we're almost ready. You went blank. There you go. I can see it now.
You're seeing the wall, right?
That's your main camera, the one where you're sitting. There you are. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, you can. Okay, we're good. Some people on. We get up to 10 or more, we'll start giving away free tickets to Golden Star movie theaters in Austintown, Ohio. This show today, to pay the bills properly, is brought to you by Lyft Marketing. And of course, I'm your host, Dennis Schrawley, founder of DOYO Live. Big fan of March Madness. David is not, so we have virtually nothing to talk about from yesterday. And I'm not going to lie, I had a few adult beverages to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. You like Guinness?
Guinness is good, yeah. That's what I had Wednesday.
Do you have
your friend Tim Crow bought a round for the Rotarians? So
I'm mad. I missed the Rotary meeting. I'm a friend of the Rotarians.
that's what we'll call you.
It's very difficult for me to get. I love being involved. I'll give my time, give to special projects, but I get extreme anxiety over having to be the same place at the same time every week. Not that I'm avoiding a hitman or anything like that, but I just feel like I got to be there, and my schedule's always like. But you are a Rotarian.
I am.
How long have you been in Rotary?
Joined Canfield Rotary back in 2011, I think. I was there. 2011.
11 years.
Yeah, I guess. Yep.
It's 11-year celebration.
Well, I did take maybe a year or two off in between jobs, so I guess not consistently since 2011. But yeah, it's joined over there. That's where I was living at the time, and then really great group of people, but ended up moving out this way towards Poland, and Poland Rotary was more convenient for my office location and obviously where I live. So here I am.
Again, if you're on, hit the share button. We get over 10 people. We're gonna start giving away free tickets to see movies at Golden Star Theaters in Austintown, Ohio. We've got David Moliterno from Moliterno Insurance talking a little bit about Rotary. Now, a lot of people are out there, like you'll see the signs, Knights of Columbus, Rotary, and what exactly, for people that still don't know about Rotary, what does a Rotary do?
So Rotary has an international component to it, and then we have our local clubs. So internationally, you'll probably see that they are very passionate about eradicating polio. They've done great things, leaps and bounds to get that accomplished. Most of Rotary's projects are designed around sustainability. So they don't want to just throw money at something and then come back 5 or 10 years later and see that nothing changed. They want to design a project that if they put money and resources and effort into, that will sustain itself for years to come. So, drilling wells, they want to make sure if they go out and drill a well in another country, that the well is maintained and used and doesn't just fall apart and, go to waste. Locally, though, we really try to focus on local charities, community involvement. We have quite a few different projects that we put on every year. If you're in the Poland area, Poland schools or Poland village or township, you can get an American flag put in your yard. So $35 a year, we'll end up putting a flag from Memorial Day all the way to Veterans Day in the fall.
Yeah.
We'll put it up. If it gets damaged or something happens to it, we'll come out and replace it. And we put that up every single year for you, as long as you continue to be a subscriber.
How many people are involved in that flag program, do you think?
Volunteers or flags?
flags because I know that I see I know I see what's Chris's business?
Roof right.
Roof Right driving around with a pickup truck, and crows will be mapping out logistically where to go. There's a ton of flags. You see a flag at the end of a yard. That's a Rotary flag.
I think we were up to, don't quote me on this, but I think 500 flags last year.
Wow, that's awesome.
And really with a group of less than 20 volunteers to do all of that. So
one thing you got to remember too, I think that you guys have impressed upon me. Rotary is 100%, 99, 95% gives back everything, right? So like other foundations, and not to knock what they do. Some of those organizations, they need leaders at the top, and it is what it is. But Rotary was founded upon a principle that there's no really official officers, and that money that comes in gets distributed back out through projects, through donation, through goods.
Yeah. The International Rotary Foundation is one of the highest ranking foundations in the fact that they give out, majority of the money. They're not using it for advertising or payroll, or they're giving back as much as they possibly can. They even, through those grants or through those funds, if you look around town here, there's a number of projects that have been supported by those Rotary funds. So what ends up happening is we give money to Rotary International. They in turn, after so many years of it growing, they give that money back to the local community Rotary. We've done, I know money was used for Peterson Park, money was used for our local flag program. I'm trying to think some of the other things. We've used it for scholarship funds in the past. So that money that we give to International does come back to us that we can use for local projects as well.
We didn't time up my bites.
Not sure what?
My bites. Amazing bagel.
Big bites.
I have a major pet peeve at most of the restaurants in town when it comes to bagels. If you've ever noticed, the majority of the restaurants or where you would get bagels at in town will not slice toast and also put cream cheese or your topping on your bagel.
Give it to you dry.
Huh?
They give it to you dry.
Yeah, and like with a butter knife and like a container of butter or sour or cream cheese.
Yeah.
And I could have stayed home and done that.
Yeah.
Like literally at that point, like I could have gone through the hassle of buying a bagel, cooking it, and then putting my topping on it. What I love about Stone Fruit Coffee is, and this isn't just like they're not paying us, like we got free space here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm endorsing this like off the dime. They give you a pretty good bagel, not New York style bagel, but they give you a good bagel. They toast it and they will lather it with whatever you want on it. And for that, I will forever be loyal.
My problem with bagels, especially when you buy them at home, you buy a bag of like 6 bagels, and I'll eat one, and then the rest gets stale or moldy.
Oh, see, that doesn't last. That doesn't work in our house. We'll buy a bag of bagels, and the thing I thought you were going to say is that you see them not eaten. So like 2 sides get cooked, 2 sides get cooked, 1 gets eaten. So actually our bagel bag lasts longer because we'll cook. I've become insistent to just cook 1 side.
Yeah.
And we've gotten a lot better at that.
That would probably be a better problem to have than throw the whole bag out.
Yeah, especially in this economic climate where food is like more than Bitcoin and gas is like gold as well. So you're looking especially dapper today, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Fresh off the alpaca farm or fresh off the farm today?
No, I've got quite a few meetings going on here this afternoon, so.
It wasn't just for us.
No, not just for you. I've been pretty booked schedule work-wise. I'd have to say this is the busiest start of a year for us. 3 months in, and we are already about halfway done with our last year's production in just 3 months.
Wow. Life
So-
insurance, car insurance, property. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Because actually it was running late today because of the wreck that we both passed. You could have texted me. Said there's a wreck on
No.
224. You said you text me where are you at?
I just wasn't sure if you were still awake or not, you know. But yeah, the one thing about accidents, nobody plans for them to happen.
Right. How's the Poland Business Association going?
We had a meeting back in January.
I was going to try and make that, but I had
Yeah.
I think a webinar
Okay.
that conflicted or something that conflicted, but I was really like dedicated. I was really trying to.
Some, the plan was to try to do them monthly, and we're now into March, and I still haven't planned another one. So, but I know we had about 8 or 10 people at that first one, and
That's awesome.
Quite a few that, you know, just with illnesses and COVID still going around, we had quite a few people cancel and not be able to make it. So,
Is COVID still going around?
It was in January. I don't know. I don't know what's going on now.
My
but
goal today is to make David as uncomfortable as I possibly can.
uncomfortable.
Um,
You're gonna have to try harder.
Okay, so I saw some. So COVID magically disappeared from the conversation since the Ukraine was invaded, and I feel horrible and feel bad, obviously, about that situation. But the news basically like shifted focus, and like COVID is like completely gone away. Then the other day, I woke up, and Pfizer is trying to push a fourth round of vaccinations, we'll call them shots, to the elderly, 65 plus. They're trying to get the government to say, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Which we're all paying for that now, obviously. And so now that Pfizer, right, pushing the narrative, news covers it, and they have this new, what was the latest strand? Omicron?
That was the latest one. There's a new one now.
But no, there's an Omicron that like, it's like version 2 of Omicron.
Okay.
Like it's a subset of Omicron.
Okay.
So they made up this name under the subset of a name of Omicron, and Pfizer's trying to push a fourth round of shots. So, oh, by the way, and then back to the Ukraine. I don't know. You can't win. I think the Poland Business Association is a really good thing. There's a lot of businesses in this community. We're in Poland, Ohio now. And I think that that's a good thing. And I'd be glad to get involved and obviously come to those meetings. I think that, are people very territorial with it?
What do you mean by territorial?
Well, I'm a marketing agency. They're a
No.
marketing agency. I'm not going if there's another marketing agency.
Not really. I mean,
Good.
At one point, we had probably 4 realtors that would show up to just about every meeting. You know, I'm in insurance. We had other insurance agents that would show up. I think that's one thing you'll find in this area. I mean, there are restaurants, there's businesses. There's over 1,000 businesses in the Poland area when you pull them up online.
Really?
If you pull up the business listing through, you know, any of the, you know, data sources. Now, what they consider a business and what I would consider a business may be 2 different things. But
An LLC,
there's
right?
a lot of work from home options. There's a lot of, but yeah, there are tons of businesses listed in the township and village. Whether or not they're open still, who knows? But almost all of them are service related. Doctors, attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
Insurance, realtors. There's very little brick and mortar retail in this area,
Right.
which tends to make people not think about business the same way. You know, when they think about businesses, they're looking at Boardman, where they can go in and walk into a store.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mention, you know, there's tons of businesses in Poland, they say, "Oh no, there's not."
All right. So, I actually am going to have on, And you were part of Icons of Youngstown Part 2,
Mhm.
Volume 2. You've been a big supporter of DOYO Live, and we always appreciate that. You've been coming to the conference for multiple years. There's a lady out of Pittsburgh that we had in the book that in Volume 1 that is actually from Poland originally, so we thought it was a good play to have her in the publication. She owns a boutique,
Okay.
and she called herself a walking dinosaur because of the fact that so many people have turned to online shopping as a result of. And she's like, if I stick around for another 20 years, I'm going to be like a retro arcade. It's going to be like people are not necessarily going to come here for the clothes. They're going to come here because, oh, isn't that cute how people used to shop? And because Stitch Fix and the subscription boxes and all those things going on. Do you subscribe to a box?
I don't. And I'm probably in the classification of dinosaurs or old fashioned, but like when it comes to clothes, I'd rather walk into a store, feel the material, see what I'm buying. I understand that most of these subscription services or clothing services allow you to return everything, but I don't want to have to go through that hassle.
So if you're on and you're a subscription box person, let us know. Let us know what subscription box that you're subscribing to. And also hit the share button. Again, we get over 10 people on, we'll start giving tickets away to Golden Star movie theaters in Austintown, Ohio. My wife signed me up for Stitch Fix. And that box shows up, I think, like one time per month. And you get your clothes. I can see why it's taken. I can see exactly why it's taken off for people because, like, you get a box. If you don't look at the website, you don't know what's in the box. So now you got a surprise. You got some stylists. I'm like they say you have a stylist, but I highly doubt that there's an army of stylists for Stitch Fix. Right? There's a computer, and she's like there's an algorithm that's dressing you.
Yeah.
And they put some clothes in a box, and you're like, "Ooh, this is exciting!" And it's wrapped up like in paper with a thing, and the box has stuff on it. So there's an experience that comes along, and a unknown. What's in the box? And you open the box, and you're like, "Ooh, I like this. I don't like that." I do say that from a time perspective, I do like the idea of online shopping, but I also adhere to the fact that it feels like to me when I have to send something back for whatever reason, it's twice as big of a hassle.
The other part of that I would say has been a drawback for me, and I know what the subscription services, they're actually matching outfits to match colors and designs and style. How's fitting? I mean, every time I go to a store, try something on, something that's a large in one brand fits me perfect, and then I've got to go to a 2XL in another brand just to get something to fit over my head, and that inconsistency just annoys me so much. But even more so, like I was going through my closet, it's like I have a lot of blues and browns, but if you don't actually, you're going to an online store and you're adding something blue, the picture on the computer doesn't always match what you actually see in your life.
Fair.
So you get a blue and you're like, okay, this is going to match this jacket just fine. It gets there and it's a periwinkle blue. And
I wouldn't know what a periwinkle blue is. I'm very impressed with your color palette is very expansive.
It is. And that's the problem is I pulled out a periwinkle blue shirt this morning. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. It was just the wrong shade, wrong tones. I feel like that's one thing. You go into a department store and you can actually, here's the color of shirt that I'm trying to buy. Here's the suit jacket that I'm trying to buy. They actually work well together. And like you said, the hassle of trying to return things. I think that will eventually go away when they try to make things easier for us. But when drones are just bringing things every 5 minutes to our house.
So do you DoorDash or Instacart?
We use Instacart. That was one of the things with COVID when that first started. It was, everybody stay home, use as many delivery services as possible.
Yeah.
Which, still meant somebody was going out there. And we started using Instacart, and that has been a convenience. But again, I don't like their interface very much. You go through and you try to add items to your cart, and you miss things that later on you go back to your grocery shopping list, and it's like, why didn't we put that on the app, or why didn't we add this to our shopping? And then you have to go back out to the store and buy it anyway.
What's frustrating is that that the thing that you're buying is in the store, but
you can't find it.
It's not on Instacart.
Well, that and just being at the store. If I'm going and I know a lot of people have said it's actually cheaper to use Instacart because they're not going into the store for bread and milk and walking out with $200 in groceries.
So the trade-off is this, that you are trading time and you're trading impulse buys, right? So like we'll go through our pantry and say, do we need this, this, and this? Where at the store, a lot of times it was like, we probably need more graham crackers. And next thing you know, my wife's like, we have like 12 boxes of graham crackers. Stop buying graham crackers. Or you go to the store hungry. And that's obviously the kiss of death.
Yep.
But, and the time factor too, I never put in my hourly rate into Instacart, but it's shown me how much money I've saved on time based upon some generic formula that they use. But I do buy into that.
I don't think they factor into how much time I spent scrolling through the app saying, do I need this? Do I need this?
Well, they also don't factor into the time then when your shopper's shopping, that the shopper's not empowered to be able to just make decisions.
Yeah.
So like, I get it. Like shoppers are probably concerned that they're going to get a negative review, but in the same note, I'm like, dude, seriously, the difference between this butter and that butter is very marginal, and just pick one. I don't need you to text me.
This is one of those. I need to find. I think it was a Facebook message.
How about my last Instacart order? I had wine in the order.
Yeah.
The person came to the door. I was working from home. I was on a call, and 3 minutes later, I got a message that they went back to the store. So they took all that food that I had ordered, because when I do order, it's a big order.
Yeah.
They took it all back.
Just because you weren't there to verify your age.
Now, yes. And now I'm like on the phone with Instacart lying about my age because they don't talk to people in our age bracket. So you have to say you're an elderly person over 65 years old, and they put you right through. There's a little secret tip for anybody watching the show today.
We're all over 65 now.
You're all over 65 when you need help from Instacart. They'll pick up the phone. Don't feel bad about it either. And don't have to project an old person's voice either. Number two, so they basically hung on to the money. It took 7 to 10 days to replace the money to my account. I then had to replace the order. And so now I'm like, well, how does that work? Because now I'm out double. And
did they refund the full amount, or did you have to still pay for the shopper?
I don't know. I didn't look. And the next person that dropped off the groceries, he was a really good dude, but he had on way too much like Old Spice cologne. So like it felt like the Old Spice man dropped off our groceries, because I took a handful of peanut M&Ms, and I was like, why am I feel like I'm lathering myself in Old Spice right now?
So this is that classic Instacart story. My wife ordered one of those canned waters, bubbly water. They didn't have the variety, so instead of getting the entire box, the 12 count box, they grabbed one can of
one can. That would go a long way.
Yes, that was their alternative replacement to an entire week's supply of water.
Do you ever feel like complete gluttony in America when you're getting flavored water in a can, and other countries are walking like 10 miles both directions for a bucket of water?
It is one of those. Yeah, I definitely get that. I'm sitting here saying, okay, I've got 2 cars, a house, and looking at other purchases that I want to make, and it dawned on me. It's like, I have a lot of things in my name that other people other countries that even just wish that they had an opportunity to.
Well, it's like it's like it's the greatest place in the world to live. So we will. What pains me more is my kids are aware of its existence, right?
Mhm.
So like you work hard, you got to a certain point, you're like, I'm going to treat myself with something, but like it's funny because one of the kids likes there's a really good Pellegrino and Perrier flavored water. Lemon is really good. I really like the lemon, but then LaCroix is like really good too, and it's like it's even cheaper than those other two brands. But my kids are aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, growing up spoiled. Got it good. You got flavored water in a can.
Yeah.
Which you could just get water out of the faucet and buy a bag of lemons, accomplish the same task.
So my first experience, and I mean I have to say I was probably too old to say this was my first experience, but probably about 22 was my first experience with bubbly waters, San Pellegrino.
Yeah.
And I was just completely enthralled by it that, went over someone's house and they offered me sparkling water instead of just regular water. So
I think in Italy they call it con gas with bubbles.
Since that point, though, I've always said I when I offer people a drink, it's coffee, water, or sparkling water.
Oh, when you go to the Moliterno house, you get treated right.
Yes.
Yeah, you get a choice.
We're fancy now.
Fancy people. I do like I do like going to a restaurant and ordering bubbly water.
Even though they charge you $12 for that one bottle.
Yeah. Sometimes though, when you're out, like if you're going out to eat and you don't do it frequently, you're going all out and you're treating yourself big time. What are insurance people in the insurance industry conservative or safety precaution by nature? Do you know many of your brethren that routinely jump out of planes, mountain bike, or they all live kind of like that bubble wrap safety type of?
No, I mean I'd say from going to conferences, going to events, maybe the people that are more in my age group are much more daredevils, jet skiing, doing crazy things. I think when you start looking at maybe some of the more senior insurance agents, that's where they become more conservative. But I'm very much so like, every single time I get in the car and go out for a drive or go to a client or whatever I'm doing, that's one more opportunity that I'm creating for myself to be in a car accident. and I just hate thinking about that.
Well, you know what? Yesterday I was actually really concerned because my wife was coming home from Latonia with my son, and we had a baseball scrimmage. It was so great to be outside yesterday. And that matter of fact, this is 3 St. Patrick's Days in a row that we've been playing baseball outside. The only reason why I know it was nice out on these previous St. Patrick's Days because of the weather. But I called her on the way and I was like, "Hey, look, like I normally don't do this, but it's a day where people if you go by a bar, there's a bunch of cars at the bar.
They're not just drinking water.
They're not just drinking water." And so I said, "Hey, make sure you just a reminder, like make sure you drive like really defensively because my wife has a habit of point-to-point driving, which is gas and then gets to the stoplight and brakes. Right? That's it." I'm like, and so I was like, "Hey, make sure you're just driving very defensively today. Like, I can't explain it beyond that, but like I'm a very defensive driver in the sense that like, my foot is hovering over the brake when I'm entering an intersection, and because I trust absolutely no one to stop on their own.
Yeah.
But I find that most insurance people are pretty conservative by nature. And I don't know if the industry picks the person or the person picks the industry.
It's probably a little bit of both in that regard.
What made you get into insurance?
So I've been
you were selling cars.
So I was selling cars for a little bit of time. I've always been in like a sales and financial type of industry. sold cars. Then from there, actually, I think originally I was working doing computer programming for my dad, and I just didn't like being behind a screen all day. So I'm like, got out, started working at a dealership, went that route. Honestly, what got me into it was just the thought of flexibility in the industry. I was really passionate about soccer. I was reffing almost every single weekend. And the guy that I got the interview with was also a soccer referee. He was with MetLife.
Was it like Step Brothers? Were you guys like, did that just happen? And like, yep. Did we just become best friends? Yep.
No. He actually really despised me early on because I was only like 20 and very, I don't want to say immature, but not as...
You're 20 years old.
Not as...
You're not exactly wearing turtlenecks smoking a pipe at 20 years old.
No, I wasn't mature enough. That's probably a good word. So, he was sort of my mentor, the person who had to train me. He's actually a client of mine now, but at the time it was just very much like, hey, you really need to grow up. You need to, be smarter about this, be more professional. I mean, I wore suits everywhere, but just, demeanor and everything needed to be a little bit more grown up.
Okay.
So, but I got into it because of the flexibility of being able to, if I needed to go do something or, ref a soccer game on a weekend, I had that ability to do so. 20 years of reffing soccer, and it was something that I didn't want to give up at the time. Now I'm sitting here saying, well, I'm back stuck behind a computer screen all the time, which was what I got away from computer programming.
Right.
Because everything we do now is, online or on a computer.
Right.
And just because of the way business has been growing, I'm extremely busy. I'm giving up other things like soccer. I'm giving up other things that I've done for so long. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at this point, but back at 20-year-old David was not willing to do that.
Yeah.
So
was it a result of two wanting to be your own business owner?
Yeah. So my dad owns his own business. A lot of my aunts and uncles have all owned their own businesses. It was always just one of those things where every job that I had, I learned very quickly that I either learned how to get along with the boss or manager in a way to be able to continue working there, or I knew very quickly that, hey, this just isn't going to fit and I need to find another opportunity. I mean, I'm not saying I can't take, not saying I can't take orders or do what I'm supposed to do.
No, I get it. Look, for me, it's oxygen, man. Like I had, I was involved in small, mid, and corporate sized businesses. And that last stop, and it's actually going on 9 years ago, like next month, that I fired my boss and my corporate job. I'm talking, 6-figure salary, stock options, and something that nobody even understands what this term is, pension. I had a pension.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, what's that? Right. And I just couldn't do it. I was nominated for like executive level training, which is like a golden handcuff. And I was just like, no, I need to go do this. And so buying in, believing in yourself and betting on you when you don't have the passion to buy into others, you got to go scratch that itch. And 9 years later, there's times we ate hot dogs. It's just the way that it goes.
Yeah. But
everybody ate.
So I saw a video recently that was mentioning the dynamic between, people that, you've got a boss that whether you trust them or not is probably based on whether or not they can do your job. So you go into a grocery store and you've got the manager who's just supervising everybody at the checkout line. If there's a need for an extra line to be open, they couldn't sit there and scan people's items. They don't, they've not been trained on how to do that. Whereas if you have and you see it all the time, you go somewhere and the manager is actually jumping in and doing the job when things get busy. they're not just there supervising. And I think that's the difference between, whether you have a manager that knows what the job is and can do it, and you trust them because they know what you're doing and they trust you, compared to some of these scenarios where you quite simply know that the manager is just somebody who thinks they know how to manage people. And whether they can do that effectively or not is the problem.
Yeah, they didn't come up through the business. They got hired in for their management skill, not for their ability to be able to do the job. And there's something to be said, at least in my business, to a fault, is that, and I've had other agency owners say to me, like, you know how to do Google AdWords. Yeah. They're a Google AdWords certified agency.
Mm-hmm.
So my expectation is that those people would know how to do Google AdWords.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is they hire an individual that does Google AdWords. And then they're like, now, do I want to be doing it? And what I've gotten better at is realizing that my time is more valuable doing other things. But yes, I know how to create a Google AdWords campaign. And so therefore, anybody that comes and works for me, they're either getting it firsthand from Yoda himself, right? Or they're reading the instruction manual. But, and I think there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah. No, and that's in my industry as well. I know how to quote all the policies. I know how to work all the proposals, put everything together. And I've walked into other agencies where they simply take a file, they drop it on their CSR's desk, and they say, "Give me a quote, and I'll go sell it." And they don't know a thing about the computer programs. They don't know a thing about putting together a proposal. And that's where, maybe my assistant is much better at getting a proposal out now than I am. Maybe she knows more things about the system, but if I have to train someone new, or if I have to bring on another, staff member, and I can't walk them through step by step, then how do I expect them to do a job that I can't do?
What the one about insurance? People like kind of like then the what hits the fan.
Yeah, so you don't know how important it is until
You need it.
You actually need it. It's kind of like a parachute. That's another analogy. You jump out of a plane, it's fine up until you hit the ground. Well, if you don't have that parachute when you jump out, it's too late.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Nobody thinks about insurance as a, something they want to deal with, something that they want to buy, something that they need because their loan, on their vehicle says that they have to have insurance, or, the state says you have to have insurance to drive. Their mortgage tells them, they get a letter every year. We need to update your insurance records because otherwise your loan will be, in default and we'll come after you. It's a necessary evil. The nice thing is we actually, with the company we represent, we actually have a cash back program. So when you don't use your insurance, when you don't have a claim, you actually can be eligible for up to 15% of your premiums back every single year.
There's a lot of different things I want to talk about in this insurance conversation. What do you think? What do you think the direction insurance is going with sites like Lemon that basically have been venture-backed type of insurance? That's an app on the phone that I can now just follow an algorithm on an app and get my renter's insurance all squared away without ever having to go through an insurance agent.
I think there is always a time and place for, advancements in the industry, for new technology. I know a few people who have had Lemon who have had bad experiences because they thought they had coverage for something. They thought they had, the proper policy in place. In reality, they didn't have what they actually needed. Lemon gives you, and I went through it myself, to see
what it looks like.
What do they do? What they wanted to insure my house for, what they wanted to give me for personal. That's why their rate I mean, one of the biggest things, and I know, anytime I have a client that gets in a car accident, they can call me up. Hey, what do I need to do? If you have an app or if you have something else like that, you're relying on a bot or AI to give you the information you need.
Full disclosure, David supported DOYO Live, and as a result of that, I wanted to support his business, so he writes all my policies. That said, pre-David, I was with State Farm, and they dropped me, by the way, after my second claim, which is also another reason. Like, they let me know on a Tuesday that they were dropping me by a Friday, because we submitted a claim. God forbid if you have to submit a claim, for insurance, right? And that's not saying you guys, but here's what that insurance agent. Here's the difference I think between Lemon as an app or an online application and a human being. So we were living in Columbus, and I had a very expensive mountain bike stolen out of my garage.
Mm-hmm.
That bike was on loan from a bike shop because I was demoing it. It's like a $3,000 bike, and it got stolen. So that at that amount, I was going to have to pay the bike shop. I called up my insurance agent, and he's like, just print out the bike, and it kind of explained it all. And whatchamacallit, he's like, I have petty cash on hand, and he wrote me a check that day for the bike, and then processed the claim probably on the back end. And the point to all that is that you're not getting that from an app. You're not getting David to come and take a look at your house, because there's a difference, and we had to find out the hard way pre-David of water coming in through the foundation or water coming up through a pipe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't, as a general homeowner, you don't know those things.
No.
Same thing with trees coming down. Like, we have a wooded property, so there's a difference between a tree falling down on your house, and what the insurances will pay to remove that. And you could see, like, they take care of down trees. Well, there's a caveat to that.
Yeah, and that's the hidden danger of insurance. Why most people do say they hate insurance, because when they actually have a claim, they looked at the proposal. An agent sits you down and say, here's your proposal, here's what your rates are, here's what's the maximum coverage is. But then when it actually comes time that you get that full policy in the mail, that's 75 to 100 pages, nobody looks at that. And that's where all that verbiage is, that maybe under this scenario, if it happens on on the third Tuesday of the month, it's not covered. Well, if it's in that wasn't covered in full, except there was a loophole in the policy language that he got a full roof replacement because of the way that the claim happened. He's happy. I'm happy that he's happy. The insurance company paid. They followed the letter of the law. But insurance companies are only required to do what their policy says.
I'm really pissed off right now, not at you, but at Shurion.
Mm.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Bless you again.
Shurion insures for like $25 a month, like all the electronics in my house. We had a TV get damaged, and I think it's actually more the TV repair company. They said that the screen broke as a result of a blow, contact to the screen. And I'm like, wait a minute, so now my kids are saying that nobody hit the TV,
and you can trust them.
I could trust them. They're blood. I gotta go to war for them. If it's internal, then we could dress people down. But in public, they're not wrong, right? So I'm like, look, the TVs, we pay $25. Does it matter how the TV broke? So now, sometime today, to not interrupt my March Madness viewing party of one, I do have to call Insurance and have a rather tough conversation. By the way, next week, we have convinced the sports media king of Youngstown, Ohio, DJ Yoakley, to take a minute out of his time to come in and do the DOYO Live Marketing Show to talk about March Madness, the most wonderful time of year. That's right. I love March Madness. My only goal, 4th grade, I left school, went to my grandmother's house, saw Dwayne Pearl Washington playing in the Big East tournament, and I was hooked from that moment on. And every year, like, I take off work, I celebrate March Madness to the point where my eyeballs are falling out of my head watching hoops. And then Monday, I've got a basketball hangover and can't. So we're going to have DJ on talking hoops next week. If you're on right now, hit the share button. We've got David Moliterno from Moliterno Insurance. We're talking insurance, Instacart,
A little bit of everything.
Poland Business Association, and Rotary. So shoot us a question, by the way. You got a marketing question, you got an insurance question, let us know. But hit that share button for us. Give us a like, a thumbs up, a heart. You can even give us a Maddie face. I don't care. Life insurance. That's another one that I think is it's uncomfortable, I think, for people to think about the reason why they're buying insurance. But in the same note, it's a reason not get insurance. I feel it's like your duty, your obligation, obviously back to your family, especially if you're the primary provider, to make sure that you got your house in order to get life insurance. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about that until, unfortunately, after an untimely event. I think the big misconception about life insurance is how much it costs.
That's people, we in the industry, I'm always going through, okay, why do people buy? Why don't people buy? And the number one misconception is the price. They think it costs way too much.
I think that before they even get a price, they think that it's expensive.
Yeah, they've
that's a luxury for rich people.
They've not even looked at talking to an agent or going online and searching. They just I can't afford it. It's something I don't need. It costs too much. And I mean, honestly, whether you have the ability to get it through work or you can get it through an agent, you can get policies for as little as like $10 a month.
And so the multiplier generally, like if you'd say cover yourself at X of your annual salary.
The multiplier we use when we sit down with clients is usually 5 to 10 times their income.
Okay.
It depends. It varies based on needs. We try to do a full needs analysis for every single client. Even if somebody comes to us and says, "Hey, David, I just want $250,000." Okay, that's great. Where did you come up with that number? Why is that what you need? And we'll go through. It's taken care of. If something happens to the primary breadwinner, the primary income in the household, where is that going to be replaced? Well, life insurance is a great example for that. To how much of your income want to have. I've had people that quite literally they get their policy through work that replaces 2 times their income. Well,
it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, but what is your family going to do after 2 years of you being gone?
Sure.
The greatest joke is, well, my wife will just remarry. My kids will fend for themselves, and it's like that's one. But yeah, it's a lot of people think it's too expensive. I get a lot of people that think because of maybe some health issues that they can't qualify at all. We can do medical underwriting. We can also do policies that don't require any underwriting. Just sign a few papers and we'll get you covered. So it's been rare that I have somebody that I cannot help.
You're doing a lot of farms now.
So yes, we are. We've done just in the past month. We've worked with 3 farms. So quite a bit of a different animal. No pun intended there, but
well, not all farms have animals.
Not all farms have animals either. No. The most recent one had alpacas, so they have animals, but no crops. So not all farms have crops either. Farms are, when you break it down, are really not that much different than your home, except for the fact that you have more are, might have machinery that wouldn't be covered under a traditional homeowner's policy. You have crops, you have animals, you have lots of outbuildings where, most people who have a homeowner's policy, they have their home and they've got a detached garage and they might have a shed, where some of these farms have 15, 20, 30 outbuildings on them.
Buildings.
Some of them have 25 or 30 tractors that, your average household has a, zero-turn mower. There's a lot more that needs to be done with those. And that's where I said I'm stuck behind the computer all day, every day now, because I have to literally go through and take those pictures of your barn and rebuild it in a digital landscape and rebuild it in a, numbers type of scenario. And
I had a conversation with a company in the past 6 months. They called me, and they do is they get, and actually there's my neighbor formerly was actually in this business as well. They go around, they take they get hospitals through accreditation and property managers through building inspections.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they take pictures on their phone, and the application marries it to the report.
Okay.
So because they're taking hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures, goes into the computer system. Computer system attaches it to the report automatically, and it saves them a bunch of time. It saves property managers a ton of time, and hospitals a ton of time on marrying up what they're all looking at. And I think it takes in the architectural plan as well.
Okay.
That's not something at your level, though. That's something at American National. I should know.
Yeah. It's on your policy.
It's on my policy.
Yeah. No, yeah, we definitely have a lot of different tools. I mean, most recently it's just a matter of taking pictures and texting them over to me, or, I go out and I take the pictures, and that part can be time consuming, but it can also be really beneficial. Most insurance companies, they require inspection, but as an agent, I'm sort of considered a field underwriter. I can go out and I can look at a house and help determine, like, hey, the roof looks like it might need replaced soon.
Yeah.
When we go out to these farms with these barns, it's not just a matter of looking and saying, oh yeah, there's a barn there. It's looking and seeing these, okay, maybe the foundation is shifting. Maybe there's some wires that are exposed. Trying to find those things that not just on our end, but on the client's end can save them in the long run, so that they don't have to, have a devastating fire. Sometimes it's just a matter of things that they don't think about because they're there every single day.
Right.
Talking to a business, and I look around, it's like, okay, I don't see any smoke detectors or fire extinguishers. That's a simple fix. They can go out, buy those real quick, and have the, peace of mind knowing that they have that extra layer of protection there.
Yep. All right. So let's switch gears. If you're on, hit the share button. We're going to have some exciting conversation about youth sports and soccer, football. Why is it when you were refereeing soccer that you tried to screw Poland over?
Why did I try to? I don't know if I ever intentionally tried to.
That's the funny thing, right? So anybody that's involved in youth sports, that is either we had a baseball game. We had a fantastic umpire last night. He's a great guy. I make all the kids tip their hat after games to the umpires, just to let them know that we appreciate them. Yeah, they're getting paid, but they're not getting paid like, they're there because they want to be there, right? And no youth coach, I don't think, ever woke up, decided to volunteer their time and to purposely screw a kid over. And so you do have a subset of parents, and unfortunately, we don't gather on the 100 people that are happy. We kind of tend to focus our efforts on the one or two people that are just belligerent. You've had some interesting run-ins on the pitch.
I have, yes.
But you also had a very rewarding experience last year. You refereed the state championships.
State Division I boys final.
Yeah, so you got to see soccer at a very high level. What's the wildest thing that's ever happened to you, or that you've been a part of a crew that you've seen a coach, parent, or player?
Most of my horrible experiences, I hate to say it, have been at Poland.
With the home team or the away team?
Well, so one of them was in a youth tournament. Again, I'm saying this in Poland here that I'm, we were officiating a game. A kid got injured. I was on the sideline. I have nothing to do with what's happening in the center of the field.
Yeah.
Kid gets injured. Happened to be the coach's kid. This was going back. I mean, this is probably 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
Coach went belligerent. He's not helping his child. He's yelling at the referee. He runs over and starts grabbing every single kid's backpack and just hurling it onto the field.
Nice.
Well, I'm standing right next to him. He almost hit me in the head with a few of them.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That was probably the most severe, and that was at a local youth tournament. I wouldn't say it was World Cup professional level.
So it's not getting worse. If this happened 10, 15.
That was a very small outlier of, I'd say that was like my first experience with a, bad scenario. I've had others, I've had others that are worse, but I think that one just stuck with me because of how over the top it was for the level of tournament. If
you've seen ugly behavior at a youth sporting event, that particular, just like there's a hold my beer moment. Like, hold my beer. If you think that's bad, let me show you what I could do. Yeah. Like I don't know. So we played rec basketball this past winter, and so I don't go around, like, I'll talk to people, and eventually if I get to know them, like, I'll tell them, like, yeah, I play college basketball, former college athlete, former college coach. That doesn't make me, I don't know. I just know basketball inside and out, right? I played it for over 10 years, and I don't know how many games and how many practice, whatever. So we're playing a rec basketball game. And so a lot of times at that low of a level, you're getting referees that are really fresh out of referee school.
Yeah.
Right. And it is what it is. But I'm educating them on the rules of the game as we go. And there was an incident this past winter where it happened to be my kid, but it's not why I did it. But I waited till halftime. I didn't go, and I didn't, because I know, right? I'm not going to go yell at somebody, but or throw a chair. But I waited till halftime. I was like, "Hey, come here." And it was an older guy, and I said, what he's doing, you can't do. Like, the kid was running and trying to pick our guy, and I go, that's blocking, right? You can't block during the basketball game. And he's like, well, as long as he doesn't make contact. And I'm like, well, by definition, that's a moving screen. Like, that's why they call it a moving screen. And he got really mad at me, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, at least I waited till halftime.
Yeah,
I didn't show you up during a game. I wasn't disrespectful. I bit my tongue until I get it. It's a rec Saturday morning basketball game. I get it. But somebody, when you start to get into the physicality of things, somebody could get hurt. I said, so I told my kid, I'm like, just go through the kid. Just flat out go through him. Which maybe not be the best coaching parenting tactic, but
it's those coaches that make the referees hate the game.
I
resort to violence instead.
I make my kids play defense until the point where the referee is going to blow the whistle every time down, or they're just going to get tired of calling fouls.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's not cheap either though. It's up in your face, but don't foul. Like, we're not here to foul people purposely, but
no. And that's of my soccer horror stories. I mean, there's been plenty of times with players who have gotten out of hand. Mostly the men's leagues where I've thrown myself in between fights that I probably shouldn't have.
Oh yeah.
I'm about your height. I'm not too tall or large of a
generous.
person.
You're being generous to me. But,
But I got in between two guys that were probably 6'5", and that's much taller than I am. So
gather up a chair, boys.
and I jumped in between them and broke up the fight. And I should not have done that because I had fists flying past my head. Now they were nice enough not to hit me, but they were still trying to hit each other through me. And honestly, the worst experiences have been probably parents or fans.
Yeah, we had a parent. We were generous with playing time at 10U all season long. We weren't winning many games, and part of the reason why we weren't winning games is because we were generous on playing time, and we were in a tight game, and we had won 2 games at that point in the season. We were like 2-20, so like close game.
Winning wasn't everything.
Winning was not everything, right? And we have a ton of kids off that team that still love to play baseball. That's a win.
Yeah.
But we were like, hey, look, we're in a competitive game. We're winning. And our coach was like, he's like, what should I do? He's like, should we play to win this thing or should we get, those 2 kids in? And to our own demise, me and the other assistant coach are like, you know what? We've been generous all season. Let's play to win this thing. Like my kid's going home angry from losing games.
Yeah.
Super competitive. I was like, hey, we owe it to some of these kids too that and a couple of the kids that were on the bench, 2 of the kids that were on the bench, they weren't all that committed to the team. They weren't always at every game or every practice. And I was like, you know what? To be fair to the kids that are competing, let give them an opportunity to go win a game. 5th inning rolls around in a 6-inning game. Parent walks over to the bench and makes a scene, mom and dad. Now, this is after, like, the kid basically on a Saturday, if he didn't want to go to a game, the parents basically were like, he's not coming to a game.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I don't have a lot of obligation to have to play him every week, but the manager did.
Yeah.
So the parents, mom and dad both come over. This was before Karens were Karens, by the way. Dad says, is there a problem? We're like, no, what's the problem? They're like, why isn't he playing? Like, he's sitting this one out. And the what you would call it, the words started to fly.
Mm-hmm.
F you, what's wrong with you? You guys, this is daddy ball. This is daddy ball. Get your stuff, we're going home. F you, F you, F you. The kids on the field were like, they heard it all, and it took the wind out of our sails. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I wanted to fight the guy, but out of respect for our manager, I kept my mouth shut. I really wanted to say something. The mom starts, right? She doesn't know if there's the ball stuffed with feathers or if it's round with, string. But yet, my kid's not playing. Well, your kid wasn't here last Saturday. We can't even, and it's not your kid's fault, by the way. That's your fault. And now you want your son to go out and play the infield, and that's fine. Take him home. And we ended up losing the game. We lost all momentum.
Yeah.
It was just really ugly. And the message that it taught the kid is just horrible. Like, if you're not getting your way, take your ball and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, you know what, maybe you need to commit yourself to the team. That's why you're not playing. Maybe you need to commit yourself to getting better. That's why you're not playing. Instead, and then the following year, that dad takes over a team,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's the coach, and he's running that program. Bubble wrap and insulate your kid as much as you possibly can to obviously avoid any sort of failures, God forbid.
So I've seen that happen even at high school levels. I'm right next to the bench. I can hear everything that they're saying. And honestly, these coaches who should have control of the players and control of the team don't always have that.
No.
They, I give a player a yellow card because they're completely acting out, they're misbehaving on the field. They go off and sit down, and I hear the coach say, "You're not playing the rest of the game." Well, a few minutes later, he puts her in, and the comment was that I heard later on, well, it's not up to me. I have to answer to the athletic director. I have to answer to the principals. I have to answer to the parents who have more say than I do.
Unfortunately, there's coaches out there that are losing jobs because they do just that. I figured out, so as I get older, more mature and gray hair, less of it, but that's been going on for a while. I figured out my two give backs are with DOYO in terms of, I make a few bucks off of it, but if you added it up, it'd be $5 an hour. Is educating people on what I know about how to grow their businesses. So that's one give back. Second is youth sports. Like I said, it makes me nuts to have to go to Rotary and be a part of a group that does all these great things. And that's true in the sense of having to be at the meeting, but I obviously want to give back my time when I can. My give back in my donating my time in not, is coaching youth sports. I'm very no nonsense. I got 3 rules. Is it 4? It's 3. It changes everything. Parents aren't allowed near the dugouts in baseball or on the sidelines of flag football, whatever it is. Parents don't need to be around at 11 years old. They don't. Unless somebody's got an eyeball hanging out. And by the way, we typically have a parent that's a doctor on the sideline. And so they're the most qualified person to handle that. Second, kids aren't allowed to leave the sideline or the dugout unless they got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Third, I will not discuss playing time or positions with you, the parent. Your kid is old enough to come to me and say, hey, coach, what do I need to do to play quarterback, to pitch, to play point guard? What do I need to do to get better to do that? That's how I'll coach them to ask the question, and we'll always be receptive to that and tell them what they need to do and then give them the opportunity. I don't want to get a phone call from you as a parent unless there's like a deep-seating issue that I'm unaware of. Fourth rule, if in fact that there is some pressing thing that is making you crazy and you do want to call me or text me, preferably call. Don't hide behind a text message. Give it the 24 to 48 hour rule. If it's Saturday, wait until Monday. If it's Sunday, wait until Monday. If it's still making you crazy, call me. However, I would highly encourage you to go back and look at rule number 3. Because I will not discuss playing time or position with you as a parent. It better be so-and-so said this and an 11-year-old problem, right? That come up. But I just.
And I've been involved with soccer on many different levels. I've been a referee mentor, which is pretty much a coach for new referees. It's an actual assigned position where I would go out on any given day and watch new officials and try to coach them. I've been an assigner, so that means some of the local leagues. Where do they get their referees from? Well, that was me behind the scenes scheduling people to show up at those games, and I'd get that same exact call from a parent. Now, soccer does say when you're emailing a minor, make sure that you email the parent as well, so that people are informed in that communication, which I completely get. But then, and again, these kids are old enough. This is a job to them. They're old enough they have a boss. They have to do their job. If they don't do their job, they shouldn't be out there. And I got countless calls or emails. Why is my kid not getting games? Why are they not getting as many games as their friend? Why are you only putting them on these little games and not the big ones? Well, I've had a conversation with them. They stand in the center circle. They don't run around. They don't do their job. They're not learning when they're supposed to be learning. And I've talked with them about that. If they're not understanding it, then that's probably the reason.
A better answer to that is say this. I purposely woke up today with in mind that I wanted to screw your teenage son or daughter over.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
When I got out of bed today, I realized that I want to ruin an 11-year-old kid's dream of playing baseball or make them hate the sport. That's what my goal was this morning when I got out of bed. The 20 hours a week that I put in to baseball season, that's what I intended to do with my time.
And I mean, even with my own kids, they're 4 and 6 right now. And when we go to a restaurant, I make them order their food.
Yes. My wife acts as my kid's PR agent a lot of times, and I have to like step in and be like, hey, like, and she's good about it. Like, but I'm like, hey, like, let them, they'll answer the question. You don't need to answer the question for them. My son's 13U coach for baseball, he was texting me about practice and things like that. I texted him back and I said, Michael's a big boy. You have my full permission to just basically text him or put him on, have him join the group chat, whatever, and he'll handle his business with you. If there's a parental matter that we cross over, absolutely text me. But otherwise, he's a big boy. There was a number conversation. He texts me, says, hey, we gave 2 kids the same number, and would he want to switch? I text back, I said, that's a question for him, not me. I said, I'll tell him, I'll relay this, but I'm going to have him text you. I don't know what his answer is going to be. Yeah. He texted back. He's like, no, that's my number. So they gave it to him. And that's part of sport that, you can't, I guess nowadays, like teachers are emailing kids, so you can get that to a certain extent, but sports is an area that your kid can learn to communicate with adults. And that's a very important skill beyond hitting a baseball that obviously is going to serve them well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think so many people get caught up in, can they kick a goal? And no, it's not really about the goal. It's the process of learning how to kick that ball is the same process that you apply to job, dealing with an adult, an up and coming referee that comes to you and says, what do I got to do to get more games or get to the high school level? What can you do? Right. I think that's a big problem with a lot of coaches. So the majority of coaches out there basically get hung up on, I'm a coach, and it's kind of like a business owner as well. So I went to a coach's baseball clinic down at YSU in between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
There's like 6 coaches there. And YSU coaches took like 2 hours and went over drills that they do at the collegiate level. And I took 2 or 3 things out of that 2 hours. And I'm like, there's only 6 coaches here, and this was free. Mm-hmm. There should be like 24 coaches here.
Yeah.
But they all think they know everything already. And that's obviously not a good approach as well. I think when they do coaches clinics, I think they should bring referees in.
We've talked about it within the soccer community. We've talked about, putting together a group training. In the past, they actually did for high school, they did the state training with both the coaches and the referees there. And they moved away from that probably 5 or 6 years ago. But it's within our local referee organization, we still go to, try to send a representative to one of the coaches' meetings. What issues are you having with referees? And then we say the same thing. Okay, here's the issues we're having with coaches. Can we make sure that we're all on the same page? It doesn't always work, but it's that communication.
I think that there's a way to go about it too. Like, I don't think that referees are completely immune. And I think good referees recognize the fact that they miss, like they're humans, they miss things. Mm-hmm. And I think as a coach, if you're willing to, your approach and context is everything, just like in life, right? But if something's going on and you're witty enough and you can make a joke about it to diffuse it, but in the same note, let the official know. I've always 9 times out of 10, officials are very receptive to a conversation with you, not a berating though. Nobody wants to get yelled at. Yeah. Making a timely joke about a penalty or about something that you're seeing is I think it's acceptable. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It depends on who's the referee or who's the official.
Well, I think that a lot of umpires and referees turn on. And we're gonna end up wrapping up the show because I got 2 devices that are out of batteries.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that there's a way to go about it in the right way, and I think though that there are umpires and referees that have incredibly thin skin.
Mm-hmm.
That they're bigger than God. That you can't say anything to them, not even like conversation. That's just who I am though. Like I'm gonna have a conversation with you, and
Oh, yeah.
some people get anyway. Listen, thank you for dropping by the Do Live Marketing Show. David Moliterno, Moliterno Insurance. You can find him there at the Poland Business Networking Association. Retired from the soccer pitch for now.
I think officially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Officially, we'll let you know when he comes out of retirement. And also of Rotary. Appreciate all the good work that you're doing there. Thanks for coming on the Do Live Marketing Show. Next week, I'm efforting. I'm trying. Sports media mogul, Mr. DJ Yoakley, should be in the house live with us next week. Everybody have a great March Madness weekend. Enjoy that beautiful weather. See you.
All right.